we want to actually go through just a couple names here. We'll kind of do a rapid fire, just talk about the player and their matchup and how we're feeling about them. We got a couple running backs here. Let's just jump right into it. Todd Gurley, we've talked about him a lot preseason, even in week one. We're a little bit concerned over the production that he's put up. He's getting the touches, he's getting the volume, but losing some air volume to Brian Hill in week two. He's against Chicago, which is a little bit more of a difficult matchup. Do you feel comfortable plugging Todd Gurley in at your flex spot?
No. I mean, honestly, no. I'm trying to avoid Gurley. I think in a lot of leagues you had to draft him as an RB2. But to me, it's tough. You probably have to start him. I don't want to start him, but if you're asking me start or sit, I will play Todd Gurley this week. He got 21 carries last week against Dallas, 14 carries in week one, along with 2 receptions against Seattle. So the work has been there. The production and the efficiency has not. I'm going to give it one more chance, Stef, and if he continues to disappoint, he's going to be out of my lineup really quick. But in a week where running backs are tough to come by, and there's some tough ones across the board, I know the next couple matchups we're looking at here are tough as well. Got to give Gurley one more chance, but I'm not feeling good about it.
Yeah, he's probably going to be a matchup-dependent guy. I mean, he had that touchdown against Seattle that kind of saved his week. If he doesn't have that touchdown, we're talking about 7 points and 6 points. So I think you plug him in and pray for the touchdown, which is, I guess that's what you want from a flex option.
Todd Gurley or this next guy with another tough matchup, David Johnson at Pittsburgh. We saw him really pop off in week one, looked really spry coming out hot after all the question marks. And last week in a tough matchup against Baltimore, we didn't see a lot of production. Another tough one here at Pittsburgh, Steph. Are you taking Gurley or David Johnson this week as your RB2? And with David Johnson as a whole, are you going to fade him or start him this week?
So really what that comes down to me is for the health of Duke Johnson, because if David Johnson's going to be carrying the workload, getting a more passing volume than Gurley will, even in the tougher matchup, I'll go with David Johnson. If Duke Johnson is out there getting his full normal usage, I may turn to the Gurley side. But at the same time, they're both kind of splitting carries with other guys, these like tertiary pieces in those backfields. So I'll probably go with David Johnson just because of the pass volume and the explosiveness. We've seen David Johnson have 25-plus yard breakaway runs and turn those into touchdowns. We haven't seen that yet from Todd Gurley, which has me concerned for him. I don't know if it's a knee thing or just he's getting a little bit older. Whatever it is, David Johnson, you said it. He looks spry. He looks fresh. I'm plugging him in over Gurley.
For what it's worth, and this doesn't feel great, but I'd probably
it's tough.
I think I would take Gurley there. I think I would actually take Gurley there. I didn't think this was going to be the case, but I'm just thinking about it. And Atlanta, I think, has a much better offense. And even against Chicago, I think Chicago's defense this season isn't quite as scary as Pittsburgh. And I think if Atlanta gets down in the red zone and Julio Jones is out or limited with that hamstring, they could give it to Gurley. As far as a touchdown upside, I think Gurley's got a better chance to get in the end zone this week. So that's why I'm actually going to go ahead and lean that way. But Steph, next guy on our list, another matchup that's a little bit scary, Melvin Gordon against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. We've seen the Bucs play fairly solid defense thus far this season against the running back position. Phillip Lindsay is going to be out in this one, Steph. Gordon saved his day last week with that receiving touchdown. How are you feeling about Melvin Gordon this week? Is he locked into your lineup?
I'm probably starting him out of necessity. He's probably your RB2, maybe your RB3. And I'm putting him there as a pure volume play. Even in a tough matchup, there's no Phillip Lindsay in the game and no starting quarterback. It's either going to be Jeff Driscoll, maybe Blake Bortles. We'll see how that goes. But regardless, I think the volume is going to be there for Melvin Gordon. He's a full-time workhorse back. Royce Freeman is not competing with him really for carries or targets, even though he did get a few last game. So even in a tough matchup, I think they're going to try to compete. And Melvin Gordon essentially is going to be the one kind of stable, safe option in that backfield. And they love to run the ball. 15 carries week one, 19 carries for Gordon in week two, and then a few receptions. If he gets the touchdown, you'll be pleased. So I'm going to go with Melvin Gordon, but not feeling super excited about it. I'll start him this week.
I'm with you on that one, Steph. You're kind of forced into starting him just because the opportunity will be there. Let's move down the list now. We're getting into deeper names. So I think those first three, if you drafted them, you're probably forced to start them unless you had, you went super robust RB in your draft and some of those guys were in your flex. But let's get into some names that people might be having to plug in due to injuries to CMC, Barkley, other guys. Let's talk about Antonio Gibson. They're at Cleveland, not the worst matchup for running backs, but we saw Cleveland do a pretty good job against Joe Mixon last week. Steph, Antonio Gibson against the Cleveland Browns. Are you starting or sitting this guy?
I think I would flex him. I would take the upside shot on him. Last week, had 64% of the snaps after having just 26% in week 1. Peyton Barber had 1 carry for 1 yard. And Antonio Gibson got the touchdown in this game on 13 attempts. Was running at a fairly decent 4.2 yards per carry on an offense that, we don't love. But I really do think this Washington football team is trying to compete with a bright young offensive mind in Scott Turner. They're trying to push the ball. They're asking Dwayne Haskins to do a lot. And I think Antonio Gibson will be the benefactor of that. I'm not scared of the Cleveland matchup really at all. So I think Antonio Gibson is worth a flex. There's probably names that I would take over him, but he's kind of a guy that's, your floor is 8 points and your upside could be, close to that 20 number.
Yeah, I agree. I'm willing to throw him in there. It's all dependent on who's on your roster. And to me, the tier break is I'm going to take Antonio Gibson this week over any of these guys that are in timeshares. So give me Gibson over Mark Ingram. Give me Gibson over Leonard Fournette.
Ooh.
I'll still take him over, Nyheim Hines, Jerick McKinnon. Josh Kelly is a tough one for me. I know we'll talk about him a little bit later. I would probably start Josh Kelly in a great matchup this week over Antonio Gibson, but I think just because the work is going to be there, I could see him getting 15 carries, a couple receptions, and if he gets into the end zone, he's going to be a fine RB2. So yeah, I'm willing to start Gibson this week.
So the next one, this is a no question auto start to me now and potentially for the rest of the season, depending on how things go, with both Raheem Mostert and Tevin Coleman banged up out of the lineup in a soft matchup against the Giants. Jerick McKinnon, is he an auto start for you?
I don't think so. I mean, I think he's a fine start. He's obviously going to have opportunity here in this offense, and it's a good matchup. Like we look at it, Raheem Mostert's out, Tevin Coleman is out, so the opportunity is there. I think Jeff Wilson is actually going to get a little bit more run in this game than people want him to. You look at McKinnon's workload so far, and even last week, Tevin Coleman, after Mostert went out, got 14 carries for 12 yards when McKinnon was clearly the better back. So yes, I do think McKinnon's going to get, 8 to 10, maybe 12 carries is the upside in this game. If Jimmy G is out and they really want to stick to the ground, he should get a couple targets as well. So I think he is startable. If you're in a tough situation and you had some guys go out to injury, I think McKinnon's a fine play. But the thought process of these fantasy managers is like, oh, Mostert's out, Tevin Coleman's out. McKinnon's going to be in the backfield by himself, and he's going to get 20 carries and, 7 targets, and he's going to be a smash play. I don't think that's necessarily the case, but I think he's going to be fine. If he's my RB2 this week, I'm not, psyched about it, but I feel okay.
Well, we look at what Raheem Mostert was getting, 15 touches in week 1, 8 in week 2 on the ground, and saw 5 targets in week 1 and 2 targets in week 2. So getting volume both through the air and on the ground, I think a lot of that is going to go over to McKinnon. And what he's shown already is that he's back healthy and he can still be efficient. 25 yards per carry last week on 3 touches, which is that's insane. And he had a touchdown on one of those scampers. So I think he's going to get a ton of volume, and he's looked great. I'm in on McKinnon. I like him.
Look, I'll take him over some of like the PPR specialist backs. Like I'll take him over Hines, Cohen. I'll take him over.
Absolutely.
I know Zach Moss is questionable. If Zach Moss plays, I think I would take him over Singletary this week. If Zach Moss is out, I would go Singletary there. But I'm taking him over Mike Davis in Carolina. I'm taking him over Ronald Jones. Darrell Henderson. So if you had those other waiver pickups in consideration, I think I would still lean with Jerick McKinnon with this opportunity in a great matchup against New York. New York's given it up to the running back this year. They're bottom 10 in rush yards allowed per game. I know we're only through 2 games here, but I think McKinnon is a fine start. And, if you were on the waiver wire trying to find a plug-and-play running back, he would have been the guy that I would have chosen.
So let's fly through these next 3. Mike Davis against the Chargers on the road. I know for a lot of McCaffrey owners, maybe you had him or went and scooped him up off the waiver wire. If he's an option in your flex, though, are you starting him over any other names that we've brought up here? I'm probably not.
No, I think that's a desperation play. I mean, if you're like one of, the league we're in together, Stef, our home league, it's been bad. I don't want to talk about it, but my RB2 right now is Ronald Jones. And it's a situation where if I had Mike Davis, I would start him over Ronald Jones. I don't have that luxury, so I am rolling Rojo out there and hoping for the best. But like if you had McCaffrey and you had Mike Davis as your handcuff, I think you might be forced into starting him. I'm not excited about him. I don't think he's just going to take that McCaffrey role. It's a tough matchup. I think there are going to be other guys involved, whether it's Curtis Samuel, whether it's Reggie Bonifant getting pulled up from the practice squad and getting some carries as well. So I'm willing to start him, but I'm trying not to.
Yeah, it's like a desperation PPR, 14-team league.
It's a tough matchup too. I think a couple weeks from now, like with McCaffrey being on the short-term IR, that's three weeks this year. I think Davis is going to have some startable games. I'm trying to lean the other way against the Chargers.
All right,
though.
2 more here. James White against the Raiders. Are you starting him in your flex?
Only if I have to. Same situation. I mean, if I've got guys that are hurt and James White's the best high floor option, I think he could get 10 points in PPR. Outside of PPR, I'm staying away from him. But if I need a guy to get me 10 points in my RB2 spot or my flex, I'm fine rolling James White out there. In the flex is tough because there's a lot of receivers I'd rather have. Like, give me Golden Tate. Give me, even maybe John Brown. Players like that over James White right now. So, I'm willing to start him, but the upside I just don't think is there right now in this New England offense. Burkhead is a little bit too involved as well.
Burkhead's too involved. Michelle's still getting carries on the ground. And let's be real, Cam Newton is the RB1 on that depth chart in New England. Last one here, Darrell Henderson against the Buffalo Bills. Looked great in week 2. Are you plugging him right back in week 3 with Brown dealing with a thumb injury and Cam Akers dealing with a rib injury?
This one's tough. I think you have to wait and see if those guys are active or not. And the only way I'm starting Darrell Henderson this week is if both miss the game. This is a pretty tough matchup against Buffalo. So I'm willing to start him if he has the backfield to himself. Just keep an eye out. At the time of this recording, Malcolm Brown and Cam Akers are still questionable. It's looking like at this point, again, we're recording this, what day? Is it Thursday? It's looking like Cam Akers is going to miss and Malcolm Brown is going to play. If one of those guys plays, I'm probably benching Henderson, but if both are out, I'm willing to throw him in there.
This backfield, this 3-headed monster of a backfield, I feel like McVay and this coaching staff are looking for somebody to break out and come in and take over this role. I like Darrell Henderson a lot. He played only 43% of snaps last week, had 20 fantasy points, though, was running very efficiently. I think he's worth a flex spot this week. If I don't think Akers is going to play. Brown might play, but either way, as long as Akers is out, I'm comfortable putting Darrell Henderson in there. I'm probably a little bit higher on him than you are.